Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, everyone. Alhamdulillah. Welcome to a new series in Atwi Lahi Facebook Live, where we call it Conversation in Ramadan. And in this program, what we have in store for you is conversation with people who are new to Islam, or they are sharing their experience in Ramadan, or whatever other circumstances they are in, that they are able to benefit us with their sharing. And so, Alhamdulillah, today our first guest in our new episode, our first episode, is my old friend, my good old friend from Australia, brother Ashaari. Ashaari, how are you?
Good, Khalid. How are you?
Good, Alhamdulillah, mashallah. How's everything over there?
Alhamdulillah, it's good. Everything is, like everyone's taking it one day at a time. So yeah, it's a bit different than usual, but inshallah it'll be good.
How long have you guys been to, you guys is also on the lockdown, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think it's been like close to 1 month now. Almost 1 month, yeah.
1 month.
3 weeks or so.
May Allah ease all of you also, as much as we also needed your prayer on our side.
I mean, yeah, inshallah. Inshallah, I know it's tough for everyone, but yeah, inshallah it gets through.
Inshallah. Anyway, for the viewers, this is Brother Ashaari. 20 years ago, he embraced Islam, and I was blessed and fortunate, guided by Allah, to be his witness. One of his witnesses when he embraced Islam 20 years ago. And that was a turning point for me. If you listen to our podcast, a few weeks ago we released from punk rock to Islam and saints. So this is the continuation. So today we're going to share about his experience in Ramadan, because it's not easy as a convert, as a new convert especially, first year or first time you're experiencing Ramadan. It's not just the hunger, the thirst, or whatever, but it's also the mental and the spiritual aspect of it, right? So Ashaari is here to share with us, and there's so much we can learn from each other, inshallah. So Ashaari, 20 years ago, what a journey, man. 20 years ago, mashallah. Congratulations again. But I remember, I remember at that time we were very close, and we were together after your conversion, and Ramadan came, I think, after a few months. And I remember you were talking to me like not too sure how you're going to face it because of the current situation at your home, and also mentally, you are not I'm not saying you're not prepared, but mentally you need to be very strong, because at home nobody is there to understand what you're going to be. And I can understand the first time, if you are doing Ramadan and you're not too sure like what it is, like you're not too sure what it is like, right? So can you share with us your experience that we can?
Yeah, sure. So basically what happened in when I was converting to Islam was it took me a few months to a year, and like I was getting to know a lot of friends who were Muslim, born Muslims, and I knew what Ramadan was all about before I decided to take that step. And one of the challenging things for me at that period of time was because I was actually in the army when I converted to Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And like for everyone that's of that age, you go to the army and it's like a big shock to you, like, oh, what's going on? You're out of your comfort zone as it is, and you're getting told off by all these officers, and it's pretty heavy for you. So I was going through that whole stage of NS and so on. Fortunately, I wasn't like tough NS for me. I was like PES, PES A, B, C. I was in C, so it wasn't too bad. I wasn't like what do you call it, out in the jungles or anything.
Yeah.
So I had
You're
like
not the commander.
No, not the commander.
You're the club.
So, so this is the interesting part. Yeah. So after my basic training of 3 months, they posted me to ammunition, sort of like an ammunition base. So I was like a storeman, but looking after ammunition type stuff. But anyway, what was interesting was that my commander in the platoon that I was in the base, was actually quite supportive of me. He did end up finding out about my intentions to convert to Islam and everything through my mom complaining. So it was sort of yeah, no, that's surprising, isn't it? So but he sort of took it in a positive way. It's like, oh look, I might give you some advice and this and that and everything. So he sort of kind of became friends with me to some extent, and I was quite
Mashallah.
shocked because he was like a lieutenant, and I was like just a lance corporal. And so while we were sort of getting to know each other, it sort of, I felt like Allah was kind of like helping me to relax a bit, like somebody of that level was coming down and telling me to go easy and stuff. And then I came to the part where I thought to myself, I've known about Islam, I've had a lot of Muslim friends, I think I should just go ahead and convert. That's when I asked you, I said, Khalid, can you be my witness and so on. I think that was around September of 1999.
Mm-hmm.
And Ramadan was like 2 or 3 months, so it was like December 1999.
Yeah.
So the funny thing was, as soon as I decided, I should do the conversion and so on, and it was funny because one of the volunteers at the Converts Association said to me, "Oh, guess what? Conversion that we do in Darul Arqam is just a formality. You want to actually convert, you just have to say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah in front of witnesses. The paperwork and everything is just a formality." And I was like, "Oh, you should have told me that earlier. If I knew that, I would have done a long time ago." But of course, everything's got its time and its pace, and Allah knows what's best at what time. And so after I took the Shahada, I went back to the army camp, and they sort of said, "Oh, guess what? We've decided that you need to go to a different different platoon." So the challenge was, as soon as I converted, the first challenge for me was that my familiarity was being lifted. So I was put in a totally different environment. So I was used to going to that army camp, and then just like that, then literally the next day after I got I don't even know how they found out, but anyway, they said you have to go to a different platoon. But subhanAllah, the place where they put me in was actually right next to my house. So it literally, like, it was a place that I remember when I was in primary school. I used to pass by this army camp. I'm like, oh, now I'm part of that army camp. It's right next to my house. So that was, to me, like, the change in what happens becomes a bit of a sort of like a lesser burden. And I think that's what Allah does to people, that you think it's a big transition but you don't realize that every transition that you're going through, Allah's there to help you. It's holding your hand, it's letting you go through it smoothly. So that was one thing that really helped me. And then the second thing was, before, in my previous platoon, there were actually no Muslims in that platoon in ammunition base, and I sort of felt like I was all alone. And there was even some colleagues that were saying, "Oh, do you want to become a Muslim? Are you sure that's the right thing to do? It's not a very wise thing to do." They were sort of discouraging me from doing it. But as soon as I went to this new platoon, they were like, "Oh, mashallah," and it's sort of like holding my hand, like, "Oh, this is where the musalla is, that's where the halal food is and everything." So I felt like, oh man, this is like, somebody welcoming you into like a new thing. So it was kind of like comforting for me. And so getting adjusted to my new life by then sort of made me feel a bit more easing into Ramadan, because it was like 2 or 3 months later, it was Ramadan. And it was my first experience fasting and so on. So as I got into fasting itself, I think one of the big challenges was, trying to do sahur. And, because if I think back now, and even with my kids now, I sort of like, you get tired and you're like, "Oh, should I really wake up and have something to eat, or should I just go ahead and sleep?" But it's your environment that makes you want to have that sahur. It's not about the food. Like, the food is, you'll gulp it down in 2 minutes, you'll forget all about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's something spiritual about sahur that if you've never had sahur before and you suddenly have sahur, you'll actually feel the difference. And yeah, it's something you can't actually explain to someone. It's a hot cold. You won't understand what cold is if you don't understand what hot is. So I can't explain to you what sahur is. But I know the difference because I never had sahur before that, and then I had sahur all of a sudden. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And the funny thing was, there was a mosque, probably about 10 minutes of a walk next to my flat where I lived in. So I sort of felt, you know what, maybe by me having sahur at home, I was probably gonna, rattle the dishes and so on. So my mom's probably gonna wake up and it's not gonna be nice and all that. So I thought, look, I'll take a stroll to the mosque, maybe 20 minutes before Fajr Azan, and yeah, and it's an amazing feeling because when I got to the mosque, there were people working hard, and we're talking about like 5 o'clock in the morning, like literally doing the dishes, putting stuff out, and just to watch people at work, you kind of like what's making them work so hard at 5 a.m. in the morning? I don't understand. I'm like
And
half
some is a
asleep.
volunteer thing, right?
That's right. That's right. It's the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not getting paid. They're just like literally from the block next to mine or something. And yeah, I'm like half asleep, trying to keep my eyes awake and so on. And there's these people serving, and it's not just food, it's like a table of like nicely spread, like curries and all the amazing Malay food and so on. So yeah, I was quite surprised. But what it was the feeling like when you sat down and people were sitting down next to you at the table having sahur, and then there's somebody that you see that looks prominent. The next thing you know, that guy's the imam and he's sitting there with you and he's having sahur at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, mashallah, it sort of brings that sense of community to you, that you don't realize that as a human being, there are all these other people that have normal lives like you do, and sahur and Ramadan sort of brings everyone together on the same table, on the same building, the same time. It sort of synchronizes everyone together. It's like you.
Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. It's like Allah's like, what is your purpose? And when He brings all of you together at that point in time, at that moment, at that hour, you sort of realize, you know what, we're all here for the same thing. So yeah, it's kind of a realization, yeah.
But you think like the Malay sort of the Malay spirit, the kampung spirit, the Malay uncles and so on helps you gradually smoothen your journey in Ramadan? Because you were saying that you were amazed because at 5 a.m. you saw all these volunteers. They don't get paid and they're doing fi sabilillah. Like I'm doing this for Allah and I'm for my community and I'm doing this. I'm not asking for anything. So eventually it helps you, right? In a way, your journey to Allah in Ramadan.
Yeah, it helped a lot because when I was in NS, I don't think I had that too many friends or people that really understood what I was going through, or like I couldn't just randomly go up to someone and say, hey, guess what? I'm converted to Islam and, my family's not 100% supportive and this and that. I sort of had to keep it low and, not talk too much about myself to people. I remember one of the days in Ramadan, like I was in the army camp, and look, I keep telling everyone this, like you probably won't find any other place in the world like this, right? Where you have an army regiment that has a canteen with catered food that is fantastic, and that is separated between a halal section and a non-halal section. And they literally call it, you know this, Khalid, they literally call it Muslim and non-Muslim. Like you won't find anyone in the world like that. I don't know. To me, like I found that.
I think it's a blessing in Singapore.
It's a big blessing. It's a big blessing. And coming to Australia, when I remember those moments, I'm like, and I talk to people about it, like, wow, are you serious? Is that what they have in the army? And I'm like, yeah, it's perfect. So, and that's what the Singapore government is something to be proud of. Like, everyone should be proud they're in Singapore because the Singapore government supports this. You know what I mean? They're giving you this ability. So basically, one of the days when I broke my fast in the army canteen at the Muslim section, one of the ladies, makcik that she was serving the food and so on, the private caterers, she looked at me and she knew, for some reason she had a hint that I was new to the camp, and I'm not Malay, so what am I? Am I Pakistani? I said, no, I'm not Pakistani. So I said, oh look, I just recently converted to Islam just about 2 or 3 months ago. And that instant she heard me say that, she was like, oh, what are you doing tomorrow? Can you come to my house? I want to host you for iftar with my family. So I was just shocked. I was like, oh, this lady I've literally met like 2 minutes ago is inviting me to her house for iftar tomorrow. So I was just taken aback. Nice Malay lady. So the very next day, I thought, okay, I went to her house, and it was amazing because she was there, husband was there, she's got a kid as well, and she introduced me to a whole family, and then waited for the azan, and out came this amazing, she cooked something that I actually never tasted in my life before. It was so bizarre because to me it was like, wow, like something that you will never see even in a regular food stall. She cooked it that day, and I was surprised. It was like, look, I don't know what you call it in Malay, but it's like sea snails. You know sea snails?
Oh, yeah. Sea snails. I think I got it, but I also forgot what it's called.
Sea snails.
Yeah.
Oh, they were fantastic. They were like, I was like, this is the first time in my life I had sea snails. And I was like, I just felt honored that somebody, cooked something that you don't see out there that easily.
Yeah.
And it just sort of blew my mind, because I was like, this is the humility, this is the honor that Singaporean Muslims have for others. Like they respect people that come to Islam. They respect new Muslims. They respect their religion. To them, it's an honor, and to you, to me, it's an honor. You know what I mean? So it's it works both ways. Yeah. So yeah, like I really enjoy, and I think back sometimes. Now that I'm in Australia, I was like, oh, I really took a lot of things in Singapore for granted. Muslim-related things, the Muslim community, it's the bond is there. Like, yeah, a lot of people have to really appreciate it and understand it. Yeah.
So from then onwards, have you ever encountered the difficulty, like you never had like a week fasting and then Maghrib you break your fast, iftar. Have you ever encountered like exhaustion, in a sense, like maybe I couldn't take this, but I tried my best, but I couldn't take this, but I'm trying my best, Do you have encountered such? Because I have many converts or those who embrace Islam, they always share with me like, bro, after 5 days it's very difficult, but I keep telling my mind that inshallah I need Allah. And actually it's a beautiful thing, because in the end it's like you submitting to Him, and through your struggle. So I was just wondering whether you had that sort of same experience,
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think for most new Muslims that come to Islam, they I think we all go through that stage where you just like, what time is it now? It's 12 o'clock, and you just sort of you're starting to feel. And Singapore's a hot country. It's not like it's cruisy. In Australia, it's a little bit different, because sometimes you got shorter hours, sometimes you got colder days, but Singapore is constantly hot and draining, and you just feel like, I just need that glass of water and so on. But I think the first 1 or 2 days, it's okay, but within like the next, like by the end of the first week, you sort of start to feel the I wouldn't call it pain. You see, there's this one thing that I think people don't realize is that everyone has the ability to do something, and I think that's what fasting sort of that was the big lesson for me in fasting, right? Is that you can do something, but you get distracted. You instead, look, I do this even now that we're working from home.
Yeah.
You have to do a report or an assignment if you're in school and so on, and you've got a deadline to do it. But instead of putting yourself in focus and putting your head down and just concentrate on it, you're like, TV's on. We're going to watch a bit of TV or something. Go to the fridge, get a few things, snack a little bit, cook your best meal. Get that cup of coffee going. So you just distract yourself with all these things in the current situation that we're working from home. And Ramadan's like that. It's like that. It's because you know that you have to just focus, and the focus is to sort of like be abstinent from eating and drinking.
Yeah.
But instead, your thoughts and your distraction sort of get to you. So you're sort of like diverting that focus away from what you're meant to focus on. And we do it all the time. So I think that's where you're pulling your self-discipline in, and you're capable of it. Everyone's capable of doing that. In fact, some people go through hardships in their life, like tough illnesses, or they have to deal with a family member that's going through something bad. My daughter's got at one age she got diagnosed with diabetes, and type 1 diabetes, and that's permanent. So it's a bit of a shock for us. So we kind of like, oh, how do you deal with that? And it's a condition that you have to focus. You can't sort of like pull the pedal off and go, I'm just gonna take a day off today. You can't, because it's gonna affect your blood sugar levels. You're gonna go down. You're gonna be in hospital that afternoon. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, and I think that's the most important lesson for Ramadan, is to pull yourself in and focus. And that's very empowering. People don't understand that, but that makes you a human being. That makes you who Allah has created you to be, to focus. You know what I mean? Like if you want, if you're the Queen's soldier, for example, right? Like in front of Buckingham Palace or in the Istana, are you going to stand on guard at the gate with like, oh yeah, just take it easy now, it's all right? You're going to be focused. You're going to be stand straight, all right, no movement, no nothing. You're being focused. So that's how we are. We're here on earth to have that focus, to have that discipline with ourselves first. You know what I mean? And then, because later on you're going to have to deal with kids, you're going to have to deal with your elderly parents and so on, and you're going to have that focus. So I think for me that it's so that actually hit me hard. It sort of made me, the first thing that hit me hard was NS. The second thing that hit me hard in that year, first thing that hit me hard was NS. Second thing was becoming Muslim and taking Ramadan seriously. Becoming Muslim was the easy. It's mercy. Becoming Muslim is mercy. Allah has showered you with a lot of things, a lot of blessing that you may not understand or acknowledge at that point in time. But as soon as Ramadan hits you, then you dive into that state of focus. You sort of like, now this is what being a Muslim is all about. It's about reining yourself, pulling yourself in, and understanding what Allah wants from you. Is to focus on yourself, to discipline yourself. So that's what it meant for me in terms of fasting the first time, yeah.
So I remember the first few times you broke fast also, I brought you back to my home and my mom cooked for you. I don't know whether you remember that, but we had that, and my mom was always worried about you, like, can he tahan or not? Can he take it or not? I said, yeah, he can take it. And I remember one time you saying to me like, you just need to mentally prepare, mentally, what you call it, endurance. And you were saying like, I just zikir Khalid. But I think that is for sure. I met a lot of people who embrace Islam. They always share the same thing, and even Muslims also, because when you're not used to fast for so long, and then when it comes to Ramadan, is the body system, work in a different manner, and your mind, like what you said, when you work, your mind also keep thinking like drink cold, Mentos, all the junk food also, you're used to it. But then when it comes to Ramadan, it's like, no. And it's only what we call it, until you break your fast. And breaking fast is like eat, like Hari Raya, like
Yeah.
But I'm blessed to meet you and to be with you in that journey. I remember we always open breakfast together, and because I know that you had no place to go, and we sort of benefit each other. And you were talking about how the mosque is like so vibrant during Ramadan, and you see that everybody come together. And what was your take when remember when we were in Darul, we had like every week people inviting us every Sunday to their house. Defender last time, so remember we had like someone hosting us for iftar, Trawi, and I remember you brought me most of the time to the places. So the thing is like what I'm trying to say is like you don't feel alone and you don't feel lonely, right? But do you know? I mean, I know some converts who are alone. They feel alone and they feel like they do not know where to go. And what's your advice on that matter, sir?
Yeah, I remember those times, like you look, I was fortunate, alhamdulillah, like maybe about a year after I converted to Islam, I joined the Befrienders group, and it sort of helped me in terms of not just understanding myself, but also sort of like, understanding new Muslims like myself, people in the community that need help and so on. And I think that's important for every convert because, and I'm saying this now as well, even in Australia, like we've got a lot of new converts. I've met a few here and there. And, especially if they get married into, like into a family. Yeah, like you're a convert and you're getting married and then you sort of get absorbed into the culture that you're getting married as well. Becomes a bit of a challenge because while you're experiencing Islam, you sort of have to digest a lot of cultural things as well. Like, example, if you've married someone of a Malay background and you're not Malay, you have to digest a lot of those cultural habits, the cultural ways of doing things. And look, the Malay culture, if you ask me, is fantastic. It has a lot of, like, I would say 80-90% of Islam is all embedded in the Malay culture anyway. But then you sort of like, you need to sort of filter out the spiritual experiences, the experiences that you need to go through with your connection to Allah. And Ramadan's the best time to experience this. And like what I said, the sahur experience, the iftar experience, these are all spiritual things, but people sort of, if they get too clouded in the cultural aspect of it, then it becomes sort of a lost. But
so you're saying
sort of,
that it needs a balance.
it needs a balance, yeah. And for the new Muslims that don't have any cultural, that's also not good because then you can experience Islam 100%. But you sort of need to observe what people are doing around you. And the best place to experience that is, of course, the mosque. You go to the mosque, and whether it's a Bangladeshi mosque, whether it's the unique thing about Singapore, right, is that I found that almost every mosque has a slightly different culture.
Yep.
Like you,
the Indian
if you would,
the Indian mosque and then the Malay mosque.
Yeah, exactly. They all have there was one mosque I remember, Masjid Malabar.
Yes.
That has a different culture. I was like, wow. And so they, within the Indian community, you got a different level of culture. It's like, oh, this is fantastic. So you see all these different things, and what you do is like what I felt, right? And that's what I think you probably remember this. Like we went mosque hopping from one mosque to another.
Call it Trawi Trail.
Yeah, Trawi Trail. That's right. Trawi Trail.
And every day at 1 p.m. she will email everybody. Trawi Trail today is at Haja Fatima. But you know what? I mean, you're talking about culture. You're talking about uh, even within the Indian, there's a different sort of culture in Indian Muslim community. I think you opened up my eyes also at that point of time when we were Trawi Trail every day. And we went to different mosques, different parts of Singapore. Right, we went to the east, we went to the west, we went to the north, and
Yeah.
looking back 20 years later, right, sort of that like, wow, that's amazing. You know, like in a small country like Singapore, and we have a diverse culture in the Muslim community, and that helps you, formula, that sort of like uh, make me realize the beauty of Islam through the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam because he embraced humanity. And I
100%.
got to give it to you, man. You know, like because I never thought of that. But when you left for Australia, I continued that for a year. Like
Oh,
the Travis
alhamdulillah.
Trail, yeah, yeah. 2 years I continued. Then after that I lazy, so yeah. So you were saying
Yeah.
something just now, yeah, about the Travis
Yeah,
Trail.
and it was like a quest because I explained to a lot of people in Australia these days. They were like, "Oh yeah, like how's it like for Muslims in Singapore? Do they get treated in bad ways?" And I said, "No, Singapore is fantastic. You won't imagine this. You've got what 80 mosques,
Yeah,
80 is it 80
more. I
70 or
think
80
more.
mosques? Yeah, probably more than 70 or 80. And you've got the dimension of Singapore is what 50 lengthwise and probably about 40 top to bottom, Woodlands
Yeah.
to bottom. And that's not even a quarter of what Melbourne is. Melbourne's like 100 and something across. And if you want to go to a mosque, you have to drive like quite a while. Yeah, it depends where you live. If you live in the Muslim Turkish neighborhood, then it's around the corner. But if you don't, then yeah, get in the car, start driving. And I say, look, it is such a blessing, and Singapore Muslims need, like, they do. Look, I'm not saying that Singapore Muslims don't. They do appreciate, they do understand, and they value their community. They value their mosques, and it is so organized. I think just before I left Singapore, Muis came up with this idea of we'll deduct $1 from your every Muslim's bank account at the end of, I can't remember, it was every month or something, and they called it a mosque fund, and I'm like,
That
that's
was long.
fantastic.
That was long time ago. Actually, they implement, but maybe because you're Muslim, so you put it later on. Yeah, it's
But
a
that
mosque building fund. Yeah,
mosque building fund, I was like, how
yeah,
amazing is that? $1 from every, that's all it takes. $1 from every Muslim.
yeah.
And look at fantastic Ottoman style mosque. Anywhere in the world, you can find 80 mosques that look as beautiful as that. I can't. I don't think so. And like I remember going back to, like, my mom and dad. We used to live in Hougang, and then my mom shifted a few places. And for the first time, 3 years ago, I remember I met you as well. My
Yep.
mom moved to a new place in Wampo.
Yeah.
Wampo. And there was a mosque literally right next to my mom's flat, right? I can't remember the name. You probably know it better than me.
It's
But
Kebun Limau, is it? No.
I think
It's
must be, but
okay.
yeah. But the amazing thing is the building of the mosque was fantastic. Singapore mosque, very amazing, tall building, nice structure, everything. But the mosque was probably about 100 years old. And when you prayed in that mosque, you could actually feel the prayer. You could feel, just by sitting there, Imam reciting something, doesn't matter, I'm weird after prayer or whatever, you feel it. It's in the air. And I can't explain this to you because when you move from hot to cold, then you understand. you know, you can't, yeah,
Yeah.
you just have to pull someone out of Australia and put them in Singapore and they'll understand.
Talking about Travis Trail and you're talking about the mosque in Singapore, how conducive, and I would say they're also professional with volunteerism and so on. What comes to your mind, your mental state, the first time you do Travis? And do you exert yourself? I'm not, maybe the word exert is not the right word. Do you force yourself, like, mentally, like, okay, I want to do 20 today, okay, Bismillah, starting, okay, I'm going to do it. Because it's something new, right? For the first time. I'm talking about the first time. Yeah. So what was that first time experience of Tarawih? But the atmosphere was very different, right? It was like so, the ambience was so still and filled with lots of tranquility.
Yeah, look, I like that question you just asked because I've been thinking quite a lot about like like new Muslims and how some people I've met in Australia that have recently converted, or maybe some of them have been Muslim for a while, but they're still sort of trying to understand how Islam can register in their hearts and in their minds. And I can't explain it any other way for myself, right? Except by saying this. When everyone understands and has read or at some point or the other this hadith, is probably one of the most famous hadiths, the hadith about Angel Jibreel alayhi salam when he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he asked Rasul about the religion sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, tell me about Islam, tell me about
Islam, Iman, Ihsan.
Iman and Ihsan. And the amazing thing which I found in that, and this was only recently it started to come to me, is that there is a sequence in which how Jibril alayhi salam asks Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, "What is Islam?" And Islam is the practicing, the zakat, the Hajj, the
Fasting,
Sawm,
Ramadan.
all those are practices, the 5 practices, and that is the first step. And what people fail to understand is, so the Iman comes after that, because that's the second question, right? There's a reason why Jibril alayhi salam said the first, what is Islam, and then what is Ihsan. Not there was a sequence.
Islam, Iman, Ihsan. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a sequence, and that is the journey for new Muslims. Is that and a lot of born Muslims fail to understand that is how you should treat a new Muslim. You can sort of give him knowledge about Iman. Yes, you can say believe in the angels, believe in the books. These are the books. These are the angels. But for him to truly experience Iman is by first doing Islam, the first section, and that's what I found personally. Like when you go, my first Ramadan was like, I really want to feel that what people go through at the mosque. So standing behind a beautiful, amazing reciter, and you can feel it, and it just flows through you, and that's when you sort of, it becomes a spiritual feeling inside, and that sort of brings out your Iman, your next step, your journey into Iman. But I personally feel that a lot of people are like, when they have someone that's a new Muslim, whether it's a partner, or a husband or a wife, it's sort of like, oh, come on, hurry up, aren't you feeling something, aren't you doing something, right? You have to go through that Islam, whether it takes 2 years, whether it takes 20 years, just take that journey. So that's how I strongly felt with praying in a mosque in Singapore. It's like you could do 2 rakats of Tarawih and you'll be like, wow, this is amazing. It's just, you don't have to go for the whole, because some mosques you probably recite the whole surah, and it might be heavy for some newcomers who are like, oh, it's going on for quite long. But honestly, if the mosque itself has spirituality in it, some people can just keep going. It's like, oh, you just feel the energy coming, one rakat after the other, one verse after the other, and you just want to keep going. And I think how we did it in that first Tarawih trail was that because we're breaking up the different mosques, it sort of comes as a beautiful flavor. Like every time you have a flavor of this and you have a flavor of that, and it just becomes like you get, to some people maybe it's not advisable because they want to concentrate on just one thing and let that be their direction. That's also good. That's, it's not meant for everyone. Everyone's got their own tastes and their own directions.
MashaAllah. I think it's also something that we can never understand, because everything is in the heart, it's the journey. And a lot of times people, like what you were mentioning about the new Muslims and all that. People have high expectation of them. Oh, you're a new Muslim, you should be like passing PSLE or O level kind of
Yeah.
thing, Whereas they need to have that experience first. Like, okay, I'm gonna pray. Because I pray for Allah. I'm gonna pray and I will sleep and fall, but I'm gonna keep trying. Because that's what Ramadan is about, right? Ramadan is not like today you fast and pray and then suddenly boom, you somewhere in the divine realm and everything perfect for you. Yeah, but it was actually interesting now looking back, right? When you're mentioning also about the travel trail and all that, what actually your plan besides that we come together and pray as a defender and all that, volunteers, but what actually it came to your heart when you were doing it? Because I felt like it was so natural that you do, and I didn't think about it actually. After 20 years now, having this conversation, then suddenly it comes to my mind like, hey, this travel trail is really nobody thought of it actually. Even in Singapore, we never thought of it. Not until all the mosques now are closed because of the coronavirus. Then it comes to me it's like, subhanallah, it was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for me. I think I can't remember the first mosque I've actually been to in Singapore, but there's this feeling of awe, like this feeling of like amazement when I first became a Muslim and I walked into a mosque. And I can't explain this again because it's something that you feel everyone has a different experience, a different feeling, and I think it's something that Muslims need to get their children to understand. I think it's a very important thing, and like I sort of at some point, now that I've got my own kids, I sort of felt that my kids need to sort of understand that same feeling I had as well. And how do I do that? Like I was like, how am I going to get my kids to understand that same feeling that I had when I first became Muslim? I was like, I like this mosque, I like that mosque. I want to just go to all the mosques. You know what I mean? And I use that Tarawih experience. It's like I was like, this is it. This is my chance to experience each mosque. So how was I going to get my kids to understand that? And I think it's not going to happen straight away. It's not going to. You may have that moment where you could be dragging them to the mosque, not in a forceful way, but sort of like, come on, let's go to the mosque, it's everything. But you have to have that faith and trust that this is a place that Allah has given to billions of human beings around the world who have dedicated the one same thing to do, to look after for people to worship, and that's it. And the more you sort of like develop the habit with your friends or your kids or your family, there is no doubt they will attach themselves to it. They 100% will, inshallah. I remember, so on that first year that I went to that army camp, I got transferred to that army camp close to my house, right? The thing that really excited me, and again, I say Singapore's extremely blessed because of this. The thing that really excited me was they had a tiny little, it was a building of its own. And in Malay, they call it surau.
Yeah, surau,
Surau, like a...
Yep, surau.
I don't know how to translate.
It's just a small... Yeah, it's a surau. It's a surau lah,
It's a surau, yeah.
Musola. Sometimes they call it musala, sometimes they call it surau.
That's right, musallas, yeah. But I think the word surau fits it a lot better because when you say surau, right, it's actually like a little hut.
Yeah.
It's like a small little hut and it's amazing. So the army camp had this surau, right? And it was a small little building of its own. You can literally fit in like maybe 3 people, no more than 3 people. But it was dedicated to just praying. And it's dedicated to praying. Army camp. It's like right at the back of the buildings and so on. And it had no like lamp or light or anything like that. So if it was past Maghrib time, it would be really dark, right? But the one or two people that used to frequent the surau would sort of make it really nice, make sure the floor was nice and clean, put a Quran there by the side, maybe a sajad, what do you call
Hygiene,
it, sajada,
yeah.
hygiene, like, and you had that feeling as soon as you walked in, and that's with any place of prayer. And I think now that we are sort of, I wouldn't say we're stuck in our homes, but I say that we are sort of in this different situation. We're all at home right now. It's the
Yep.
same thing. The more you dedicate your place of living or quarters or whatever it is, the little corner of your house that you put your prayer mat at, do your prayers, that feeling's gonna come. Just like you trying to get your kids to go to the mosque today or tomorrow, and then within like a year of telling let's go to the mosque, it'll grow on them. They're like, oh, I love the mosque, when we're gonna go there, that sort of thing. So it's sort of a feeling that you have to work on. It's not going to come just like that. It's something with anything that you love, you have to work on. Love is not something that you don't work for. Love is, people take love for granted. They think that, oh, because it's a person that's beautiful, I'm just going to sit there and stare at that person and I'm just going to love. Yeah, it's not just that. You have to work on love. You have to put in effort for love. If you take love for granted, then good luck to you, because love's just going to walk out of your life. Yeah, so, and the same for the mosque. Mosque is like love. You have to make it a habit. You have to dedicate yourself to it. You have to feel it. That's it.
Yeah. Talking about that, right? In certain time in your life, in Ramadan, I'm talking about Ramadan, right? Have you ever felt like, oh, this is going to be a lonely journey? Certain days, because not every day people can be with you, and not every day your friends can be with you, and because in your family you are the only Muslims at the moment. I mean, at the situation. So, have you ever feel like this is going to be a lonely day, but I'm going to find the meaning of it? I know some converts who told me like it's very tough because uh, you have defenders, alhamdulillah, but also at certain time you be alone, right? Like you just be yourself and you're trying to move around and see what's there for you, the meaning of what you do. And there are converts who went through, but I think they are less, or maybe they are in a different situation, or maybe different ways of seeing things in life. So they felt most of the time they are alone by themselves. I know this brother, he came to an event, and he said to me like, um, he will always break fast in the mosque, and after that, he will get the porridge from the mosque, and then he will use that porridge for his breaking fast. So he said it's a lonely, but his character is different. You are very lovely and jovial. But I'm sure deep inside you, you also experienced before. Right? So what would you say to these people who is trying to find that actually when you're alone, especially in this period of time when everybody is to have to be at home, and what's your experience? I mean, what's your advice for them? Like, how do they go about through your experience that you went through?
You see, it's hard because a lot of us go through loneliness in our lives at not just one point in time, like many points in time. And it's not easy to deal with loneliness because it's depressing to be in your own and not have anyone to share something with, to converse with people, and that sort of thing. And when I think about it, when I was a Muslim, when I first converted to Islam, I there was times when I did feel that way, but I think because of the spirit of how strong spirituality is for Islam in Singapore, I think that sort of that sort of helped me through being by myself, in the sense that I felt like Allah was taking me on a journey through all these amazing, beautiful mosques and amazing culture, Muslim cultures, Bangladeshi culture, Malabar culture, Tamil culture, Malay culture, like the way that they represent their culture to Islam. That filled up my loneliness. I didn't feel lonely at all because of that experience, that journey. But it's interesting that you say that, because I still remember the one time when I felt really extremely lonely and down and just at my lowest was when I came to Australia the very first time. My mom said to me, "Do you want to go to Australia and just do some studies there or something by yourself?" And I said, "Yeah, look, I'll do that." And I moved from that environment in Singapore of being, spirituality, it's amazing, it's Muslim community, Muslim friends, everything, to not just being dry and deprived from all of that, but to also just being by myself. Like, I didn't know anyone. I was in a new country, new situation, new way of living. And people in Australia, socially, they're very different from people in Singapore. Singapore is a very connected community. Like, everyone knows how to talk to each other. They know how to interact and that sort of thing.
Vibrant.
Very vibrant. Yeah, that's right. Whereas in Australia, and look, it's not a bad thing, but it's something that newcomers have to get used to, is that you have to be outward in Australia. And if you're not an outward person, you're not a person that can go up to someone and just go, "Hey, how's it going, man? Like, how's your day? I'm this and I'm that, and you're this." Like, it's talk about yourself. I wasn't used to talking about myself to people that I was strangers with.
Yeah.
So
knowing you, yeah, I know.
yeah, like you and me, like we know each other for quite a while. So we could, "Hey, Khalid, dah makan belum?" or that sort of stuff. Like, we talk about.
Oh, you can still remember Malay, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. So it just flows, I mean? You talk, I talk, you can just keep going. But when you're in a different setting where you're talking to a stranger you don't know and you have to talk something, you're out of your comfort zone. So that was when I felt I was at my like really low state of I just didn't want to do anything. I was just locked in my room. It was like, But the amazing thing was when I was going to uni, I didn't really finish university. I went to like a bridging school and everything. But the people in the Musalla that were in that university, they sort of, I felt that one or two of them, and they were new Muslims, I could somehow connect with them because they were going through something similar. There was an Australian convert who just became a Muslim, and we just started talking. We started blending and understanding each other. And then we were like, "Hey, like, why don't we just go?" And I didn't know how to drive at that time, so it's like, "Oh, I'll take you. Let's just go to this place and go to that place, and let's have a kebab. Like just hang out here and there." So we did all sorts of stuff. We went different places, and then we got to know new people, and so it's sort of. I think being in Singapore and being by yourself, sometimes it's not a really difficult thing. But like what you said, there are people out there that have softer personalities, like more reserved personalities. So even
introvert,
in Singapore, introvert, yeah. And these people are not going to come to you and say, "Oh, hey, Khalid, do you want to go makan here or makan there?" They're going to keep to themselves. They're not going to show it. But if they do get help from people, the most important thing is to just be with them. Like, I think that's a very important thing, because I found the people that I could connect with through experiences, like we were in punk music together. So I knew you. Look, not everyone that I knew from the punk music community wanted to be on the same journey as me to Islam. You know what I mean? It was like, I could count them as those you. There's one or two other friends, Nizam and a few other guys, and the people that are willing to join you in that journey. Then these are the people that you treasure. Like, I treasure friendship. We've been friends for that long already. But you could, like what you said, you could have like 10, 20 Muslim friends, and all of a sudden you become a Muslim, they're just not there for you, that sort of thing. So I think it's important for us to acknowledge that there are people out there, and not just new Muslims. There's got to be even people. I know we spoke about this in the last session. Like, people are constantly realizing that they're finding something in their life. Like, they're finding their quest, not at like 30 years old, maybe at like 15 years old. Like, a 15-year-old could be like, I need to search for myself. And that's nobody that's going to understand that. So if you do find someone like that, that's it. Like, he needs you, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's interesting how you explain when you move to Australia and you feel lonely. I felt that because every now and then you message me.
Yeah.
But I think it's normal, because even when I'm being honest with you, I still recall it. After you left, I also felt lonely, because at that point of time, the only friend I had was you. It was a sort of evolution. I don't know whether it was the right word, transformation or evolution we went through. And then suddenly you left, and my father passed away on the same year. And it's somehow deep in me, and I was like a lost soul, despite I solat and everything. But that's what I was saying to you just now. Like, sometimes we will go around in trying to find the meaning of what we do, because it's not just solat. To be a Muslim, it's not just solat. A lot of things that you do are actually connected to Allah, to people also, whether they are Muslims or they are non-Muslims. So I had that moment also. That's why I was asking you, and I have felt that you had that also, right? And through that process, or through that journey that I went through with after you left and all that, then that's why I begin to see, like, even as a Muslim, sometimes you don't even know what is the inner aspect of what who you really are, and what you do as something to benefit your soul, if you get what I'm trying to say. So it becomes more of like what Islam Iman, and then it goes to like a sun, like another way of seeing things, like, what am I doing this? And so I felt relate to you and a lot of converts. So I felt like a newborn kind of thing, although I'm born in a Muslim family. So we know the struggle, spiritual, mental, right? Physical, maybe some, like you mentioned about sickness and all that, but majority at our age was, at that point of time, was more like physical and mental, and you don't have friends like say like, hey, just sink in, like, okay, you are fine. And I think, alhamdulillah, I thank Allah for you and how it changes the way how I see myself being a Muslim. And it is sort of like a self-revolution, right? But there are times when we forgot, like, we are in this, because not for culture, but for revolution of the soul. I'm just saying that maybe the right word to say revolution of the soul, like call it a revolution of the soul. But I still think sometimes it's very heavy, and I still feel it's the mental state, where a lot of people who trying to change their life, trying to switch the lane, trying to move into the other direction, and most of it is because of environment and also friends. And maybe you can share also in a different perspective of how you see it. 'Cause I know a lot of people who hoo-ha, happy, and then suddenly you see like, wow, they're trying to change, and then, and it's struggle. Because it's not going to be easy dealing with your nerves, dealing with your mental state, because you're used to what you were before, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the last time we spoke, right? We spoke about the crossroads, like how everyone's gonna come at that point in your life where you're gonna have to go. So is it this or is it that? Which road do I take? you're always gonna have to make that decision at some point in your life. And look, like if you wanted to, look, you probably know this as much as I do. If you want to form a band, right? What do you need for band members? Number one, you need people that have the similar band taste, like somebody that listens to the same bands that you like. You're like, oh, okay, what Youth of Today or Minor Threat or whatever. So you want somebody that's got the same, listens to the same bands. Then you want somebody that can be good at playing the guitar. I mean, he has to know how to play. You can't just say, hey, join my band. What are you going to play? Or you be the vocal and I'll be the vocal. So we got two vocalists, right? So everyone's doing the same. So you have that criteria of having someone that will do certain things in forming a band. You can't. You have to be selective. You are being selective. He has to have the same musical taste. Not just that, the same genre of musical taste, and then you have to have skills. That sort of thing. So if you're being selective in your hobbies or your musical taste and so on, then I think there's nothing wrong in being selective in friendships. You have to come to a point where you need to choose the people that you're around with. You can't just go, look, I'm going to hang around with people that do all these things that have contradiction to Islam, like they're going against the principles of Islam and so on. And at the same time, we're going to be a practicing Muslim and do all these things. It just doesn't marry up. It doesn't, you can't play hardcore and R&B in the same band. It just doesn't work together.
You can try for being the first one.
Yeah, if you want to do a fusion, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone, being selective is part of, it's a natural human thing. You have to be selective. So in having that journey, I think it's important that anyone that wants to take that path down, dedicating themselves towards Islam, to have that don't be afraid. You have to take that step. And I mean, always remember that saying. I think it's a hadith could say that you take one step and Allah comes to you faster. Sort of thing.
You walk and He will run to you.
Exactly. All it takes is one step. Don't pressure yourself. Take that one step. Everything else will work out. But you have to take that step first, and taking that step is by being selective. And we come back to that idea of Islam, Iman, and Ihsan, right? So when you're at that first step of Islam, it's not just you practicing, it's about you being with the people that practice Islam. Like, because that's what you're doing. So you want to be with the people that do the same thing as well. And that will keep you going. It will just, you don't have to have buddy friends. Like, look, until today, like, some people, even myself, like, I don't have buddy best friends that you call every single day, or like, but you'll have a selected group of people that you meet at least once a week, once a month, once in 2 months, that have the same selectives of what you've chosen. People that pray, or people that do zikr, people that go to Hajj, that sort of thing. So you have to have that ability to be selective, and don't be ashamed about it, because if you're
I think it's hard, I think sometimes it's what sort of person you are. Something is very difficult. I see people, like some people, they just want to sing in, but they're looking for something, but they just want to sing in. You get what I mean? So it's not like reaching out. You are more like, okay, I'm just going to be like a snail or a tortoise or turtle, just go in. But the thing is, you need to reach out to somewhere, or some people. But I guess that's the mentality that you have to change along the years, because you need to know that, like what you mentioned, to be in the right circle, environment, and so forth. So I guess for some people, maybe it takes longer. You get what I mean?
Look, exactly what you said. How do I condense this? So I think this is another mistake that a lot of people do in the community, is that when somebody wants to or he doesn't understand what it's like to be absorbed into the essence of something that you are absorbed in. Like example, spirituality or zikr or hadra or anything, that sort of thing. But he doesn't understand it. But he's interested in eventually being a part of this. He's just curious. He's got that zest that, I want to be part of that. But I think the mistake a lot of Muslims or people that are already into that avenue, the mistake that they make is that they try to push too hard and sort of, come, let's do this sunnah prayer that's like, very rigorous, and this person's probably still trying to adjust to praying twice a day instead of 5 times a day. And you're already telling him, do this, do that, do this, that. That is very, very dangerous, because just by you telling them that they have to practice more could lead to something completely opposite of what they're trying to, like what they could achieve. You know what I mean? So the people that I found that really helped me in developing myself never told me to do a single thing. All they did was, honestly, they never told me to do a single thing. And all they gave me, like your example, I've never heard you tell me to do any, like, Shari, do this, or you have to, never. They've never told me to do a single thing, but I naturally grew to love what they were doing. And that's all you have to do. They just want you to be normal, just want you to be their friend. Let's go and eat this, or let's go have a meal together. Let's go play bowling together. Let's do regular normal things that are within the scope of basic good mannerable things. Just obviously don't go for disco and party your hearts out and stuff, but or go to the mosh pit. If you want to go to the mosh pit, you can. But anyway. It's about companionship. It's about being together. That's what people have to give each other. Don't give each other like, give you, do this and do that. You just gotta chase them away, especially the new Muslims. Yeah.
Anyway, Shari, mashallah, it's been a blessed time with you. I think it's almost an hour. Wow, didn't realize it, how time flies. But I think we have this conversation. No, it's rarely we meet, so we have this sort of intimacy, we call it. But from 20 years ago until now that you have children, and I'm sure within that 20 years when you got married and everything, Ramadan gives you a different meaning, different experience. What would you share with us within that 20 years? Summarize it.
It's interesting you asked me the question, because I was thinking about this whole situation of the COVID-19 as well, like how we're all stuck at home, and and everyone's thinking, when? And then Prime Minister just came out today and said, it's extended by a month, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, 1 more month, how am I going to handle it? So it's kind of like this. So there's a saying of Sayyidina Ali, Karamallah Wajha. He don't ask me for the dalil, sorry, I can't tell you. But Sayyidina Ali, he said, radiallahu anh, he said, work for your dunya as though you will live forever, and work for your akhirah as though you're going to die tomorrow. And that's how you have to take every day, like whether you're in isolation, whether you're everything is free now, you're out, you're working, sort of like, don't give up. Like, just, if you're at your lowest, just think to yourself, what can I do to work for this world? Like, I'm going to live forever. Use your hands. And this is where we, as human beings, we're so used to doing one thing. We're sitting in front of the computer and we're an office clerk or accountant or whatever. And then all of a sudden you lose your job as an accountant because of retrenchments and all that sort of stuff. Don't give up. pick up gardening tools, start gardening. You could be a horticulturist tomorrow, you know, that sort of thing. Like, just the world is possibilities everywhere. So whether you just embarked on Islam, you're convert, you need to do something. The world is there for you. Allah has given you the world to just go and expand yourself. And then, of course, the second part of the saying is that work for your akhirah as though you're going to die tomorrow, because you know it could be your last prayer, and that's when you have to put that, you know, it's not about, yes, we have to pray 5 times a day, that's our obligation, but you're a new Muslim. You know, if you have to pray 1 time a day to get used to prayer, make that your last prayer. That's your one and your ultimate essence, and feel it. Just, you know, pour your heart out, make it your one. Don't worry about, you know, I have to memorize the tajweed like so and so says, I have to recite it like this way and that. Just put your heart into it, your heart, and that's it. And yeah, inshallah, I think whether it's a convert, whether it's a teenager becoming an adult, whether it's a graduate finding a new job, this will help you through, inshallah.
Yeah, so before we end, what would your advice be now that we are in isolation, or we are in Singapore, we call it circuit break? What's your advice for the, you know, new Muslims, or even those who wants to have that journey with Allah? I mean, it's a blessing, right? You said we are in a house, we can do a lot of things here.
Yeah, just don't imagine yourself, don't constricting yourself on the outside is constricting yourself on the inside. So yeah, don't see your 4 walls as the trap that you're not in 4 walls. You're like, this is your mosque. This is, you know, when you go to the mosque and you pray, you're surrounded by walls. You know, you're not in an open space. You're in an enclosed space.
Yeah.
But what makes that place special for you is that you are connecting your heart to Allah in that confined space. So it's no different. It's no different now that you are in another confined space day to day. Use that confined space and, you know, connect to Allah. Like, the connection to Allah is everywhere. You can sort of use confined spaces and just connect and use that opportunity. Don't limit your mind to, oh, I'm stuck here, I'm stuck there. But of course, look after yourself. I think it's important, and especially in our time, you know, my kids are growing up as well, and it's hard for me to understand how the world is changing. Like, everyone's on their phone 24/7, and you know, as much as you'd like to stop the world from moving and progressing that fast in technology, it's hard. But the best you can do is give your kids a little bit, or give your younger people in your community just a bit of encouragement to use their hands, to sort of go out. Sometimes the kids are on their laptop going away at work, studies, and all that sort of stuff. Like, you know, switch your laptop off, get out of the house, get on your bikes, just go crazy, just run amok. You know, like, use your hands, absorb the sun. That's it.
But right now we are in circuit break, so we cannot go out. So maybe we do some exercise at home, inshallah.
Inshallah, yeah. Even at home, exercise, it's important. Or, like, you know what I really liked about Singapore is that you have balconies, and, you know, like, even looking out the window sometimes, you just look at the sun, look at the sky, because that sort of gives you that freshness, that energy, that, you know, just absorb the fresh air. And you need that at least in the morning, just to start your day.
Okay, anyway, thank you, my beloved brother. Nice to see you again after my podcast, this interview. And I hope a lot of people will benefit from you watching this live Facebook. Thank you so much again. For those of you who miss our podcast, you can go to Real Talk Kali Jemain. We had a discussion also from Pangrok to Islam and Saints, right? So with this, Ramadan Mubarak, brother, in advance.
Ramadan Mubarak.
May Allah preserve you and your family and your community over there. May Allah make it easy for all of you. Remember us in your dua. Inshallah, I hope to see you again. We keep in touch. Nice to hear your story and everything. See you again, brother.
Take care, Khalid. Thanks for having this session. Alhamdulillah. Allah bless you.
Allah bless you too. See you guys.